Hello, and welcome back to the For the Joy Missionaries show. I am Jill Simons, and I am going to be joined today by someone who has become a wonderful virtual friend. His name is Greg Johnson, and he is one of the most generous human beings that I have ever met, both with his advice and just in the story that he's going to share with us today about the path that God has really led him on in living with greater joy. So I am so happy that you are here with me today, Greg. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Jill.
So for those that don't know you and maybe don't know the Little Catholic Box, share a little bit about what it is that you and your wife do.
Yes. So my wife and I run a company called the Little Catholic Box, which is a quarterly subscription box for Catholic women. And my wife curates all of these wonderful items from, across wherever, but she's basically looking for very maybe small or unknown creators who have products and art that they are, they haven't really had a good opportunity to share it with the world. And so she basically finds things kind of around a theme. We share that with our customers and then do what we can to help grow the business and the audience of the vendors that we work with. So in a nutshell, that's the Little Catholic Box.
That is so awesome. I love that mission so much, especially as people really struggle to share their things with the world. It's a really powerful avenue for them to reach a lot of new people. So that's really awesome. But this has been just kind of the last few years of your story. Share with us a little bit about kind of your professional journey to get where you are today.
Definitely. So I have been I have done a lot of different things in my career, in my business life, but I started out as a chemist. And so I worked for big companies in their laboratories for like 10 to 12 years. And I can tell you that within like 2 months of landing my first job out of college, I knew that I'd made a giant mistake. So I went into this field because I did a good job in this subject matter in school. And so I thought, well, I'm really good at the sciences. Maybe I should be a scientist. And I just kind of landed in this particular kind of this narrow lane in this field just because that's what my grades told me that I might do a good job at. But I quickly learned that it was incredibly unfulfilling for me. And again, I knew this 2 months in. And so I spent the next, I would say 10 years trying to figure out what I was missing, like what my actual path was. And what that looked like for most of that time is just chasing the career path, chasing promotions, better pay at different companies, looking like always imagining that the grass was greener over here or over there. And every time I got there, I would discover that it was just a different version of the misery that I just left. And so finally, I was complaining about this to somebody one day, and they asked me, well, what's the common thread between all of these positions that you just didn't like? And I realized that the only common thread was me. So I realized that there was something I was bringing with me, like from place to place, that was potentially like causing this like disenchantment, kind of this malaise in what I was doing. And it no longer worked then to like point the finger at others and say, well, I don't like this company, I don't like this boss. And so I really at that point started to like try to do a little bit of introspection and figure out what was really going on. But I didn't have a lot to go on. So I'll also mention, I'm a Catholic convert. I converted in 2001, right before my wife and I were married. And so I've always sought to like develop my knowledge and practice of the faith. I mean, I've always been like serious that this is my belief and this is the life I want to live. But I also think, like, not growing up that way, I think I lacked some context
Hmm.
in how to do this in everyday life. I mean, I would argue that it's very easy to show up to mass on Sunday regularly, but it can be very difficult to carry that with you through the rest of the week in an intentional way, especially for those of us who have or had like a position in a secular company. Like how can we live out what we believe in what we do, like in that context? And these are all things that I was just kind of struggling with really hard.
Yeah.
And about 8 years ago, before I figured any of them out, I got laid off from my job, which ended up being a huge blessing in disguise. And because I had started asking these questions enough that I knew that what I didn't want was to just jump into the next company that offered me something, or I didn't want to just carpet bomb out resumes and take the first thing that showed up.
Yeah.
I actually was able to start my own business with a friend, serving the industry that I had just gotten kicked out of. So we created a company that basically sold used and refurbished laboratory equipment to small startup laboratories. And I mean, I was the technical know-how in this company. It was something I was good at. And so it seemed like a natural choice to do something that you're good at that people would pay for, right?
Exactly.
So we ran that company for 8 years. It actually did very well. But again, like not very far into it, I ended up with this sense of complete lack of fulfillment again. And this was really confusing because I thought I had figured it out.
Yeah.
I thought I had found like how it is that I can like bring my particular set of gifts and talents to bear to help others. That's what we were doing. But I was kind of miserable, and the misery just like kept getting worse and worse. And also what I wanted to turn this company into was like my partners and I started to diverge in what our end mission was. Their ultimate goal was to basically maximize revenue and profit. I saw other opportunities for this to be something even greater than it was, but we just didn't see eye to eye on how to do that.
Yeah.
So to kind of cap this off, through a very serendipitous turn of events in 2019, my wife and I were given the opportunity to buy a business that somebody else was selling, and it was the Little Catholic Box. And we were in a position to take this on, and I had e-commerce experience, and I had, I knew some internet marketing stuff. And so we thought this is a really great opportunity because the skill set that I had in that world was something we could directly apply here that hadn't really been applied in this way. So we saw a growth opportunity. We saw the ability to serve a group of people that we wanted to serve. We're serving fellow Catholics with this really neat idea. So we jumped into that, and that's really been like the focus of my efforts ever since, is using that as a tool to like bring to bear what I am good at, what I like and love to do, and have that and turn that into something that actually helps other people. That we want to help. And so that's kind of been the last 2 years, just figuring out how to do that well, and like how to scale the enjoyment that we have right now. Of like serving more people, and customers. And we love the fact that we are, helping all these other small businesses. How can we scale that? How can we help more of them? And in 2020, with everything that went on in the world, I basically made the transition into the Little Catholic Box and other e-commerce full-time. And so I walked away from the other company, left everything in the hands of my partners. And so this is all that I'm doing right now. And I've never been happier.
That is so good. Yay. So that lingering grass is greener has more or less dissipated.
it's completely gone. But what is left in its place is now seeing all these potential opportunities that we have access to through what we're already doing. So now, instead of looking across the fence and like being envious of what I imagine is over there, now we look at these different opportunities, like different things that the company can offer, different ways that we can serve our vendors and grow the company. And it's like this sense of just complete excitement and like anticipation of being able to do more and serve more. And so, I mean, there's still this sense of like wanting to do more and wanting to grow more, but it's an offshoot of what we're already doing. And so it's not like we have to abandon one to do the other. And it's not like what we're doing lacks in some way. It's that it's just this like this unfolding of opportunity in front of us. And now the difficulty is like discerning what to actually pursue when, because we can't do everything all at once, but we also feel like we have so many really great ideas that would really serve a lot of people.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah, that's always the challenge of when.
Exactly. Yeah, we spoke before the call that you're doing everything all at once right now.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. But something that you've shared before, because I really love following you on social media, because you are so consistent in framing things in this where's the opportunity kind of way. And I think that that's something that there needs to be a lot more conversations that start with like, here's something that we see that's not working. Where's the opportunity here, instead of like, let's all be mad about this together, because that's what we see most commonly on social media, which obviously is not something that really like enhances anyone's experience of joy. Like it might be that momentary, like, yes, it felt good to get that rant out, but that is not something that is sustaining in any way. Whereas fostering this kind of collaboration and where's the opportunity is such a approach that lends itself to what, you know, kind of getting your mind right to be able to experience joy in the first place. And another thing that you have shared that is so helpful for me is this triple Venn diagram. Can you share a little bit about kind of what the circles are in terms of how you kind of find that sweet spot for yourself in your vocation, little v?
Absolutely. So first of all, I have to say, for a while, I thought that I had invented this Venn diagram, but it turns out it's actually like pretty common. I'm not the first one to figure this out. And there's kind of a famous 4-circle version called Ikigai. Anyways, looking at it, I decided 2 other circles should really just be one when I found theirs. So we're going to stick with the 3. But it's kind of this idea of how to find like what it is that you are meant to do. And so something that I have found very helpful in this discernment process, something to occupy like the logical piece of my brain, because, you know, there's more that goes into this, obviously, but just asking yourself 3 questions and drawing this as a Venn diagram. So each question is a circle, and in the very center, they all overlap. But the first question is, what are you good at? So everybody has unique talents and skills and charisms that they are either innately born with or that they develop through experience, through time. But everybody has a very unique set of skills, of things that they excel. So that's number 1. Number 2, though, is what do you enjoy doing? So I mentioned before, I was very good at fixing these lab machines, but I didn't particularly enjoy it. So what are things that just bring you complete joy and sense of fulfillment while you're doing? And so oftentimes these are things that we call hobbies.
Yes.
So that's maybe a good place to start if you're wondering what might be on your list. The third question is, there's a couple different ways to phrase this, but what do I have that, like, what does the world need? What will people pay for?
Yep.
what like serves in some unique way. And so the union of all of those three things, the thing that I am good at, love doing, and that people will pay for and need, like that's kind of like this zone of genius. And if we can
Yes.
operate in that, then it's like this, you just hit the state of boundless energy where you're in this constant mode of creation because everything that you're doing is easy, fun, and helping others. And so it
Yeah.
becomes this kind of this self-sustaining flywheel. And I feel like I've just discovered this and have been trying to function inside of the union of those three things. Because when I hit that, I know that, like I mentioned before we started recording, that like through this whole journey, like I have never been happier in my entire life. Like I believe that I like experience joy almost daily. Like when I'm getting to do what I'm doing and it's working and I'm enjoying it and it's working well and getting feedback from others saying, thank you, this is great. It's just a wonderful place to be.
Yeah.
So I want to share that with others now that I've found it.
I love that so much. And I think that lends a lot of clarity to the like conversations that so often are just like, well, what are your gifts? And that's kind of like, we stop at the gifts question. And then a lot of times there is that missing piece of like, but also what is there a market for? Like, what is there a real space for you to be doing? And looking at where the overlap is really powerful, I think. And I love how much this scenario that is using all three of these is not only an opportunity for joy, which it obviously is, but I think it's also like an opportunity for real happiness, which we talk so much on the show about the difference between the two. But in talking about the difference, we're not saying like totally leave happiness out, like you know, you're never going to be happy, just forget about it sort of thing. Like that's a really beautiful thing when we can also create circumstances, because that's what happiness is based on circumstances. It's conditional. But when you are putting yourself in a place where you're using all of these things on a regular basis so that you do have the conditions in place so that you're really open to not just the joy, which I don't denigrate, obviously, because that's why we're here, but also the like real happiness that we have access to in doing what it is that God has really called us to do, which I think we kind of leave out a lot of times. There's a lot of conversation about like, how do we suffer well and do all these things? And those are so important, but also like, how are we happy well, you know, like to be able to actually be happy when the time is here that everything is really beautiful. I think that's so important to think about.
I agree. And the words that I have used to kind of describe this to myself in the past, it's like, so first of all, when I'm in this zone, I feel like I'm in like creation mode. This is when I'm coming up with new ideas and I'm like writing new things. And I mean, and I've always loved the idea that like one of the things that we get to participate in being in the image and likeness of God is we get to participate in creation in some way. And I cannot tell you how much I love that and how, like how impactful that is for me and how I like the things that I choose to devote time and energy to. I just feel like it's kind of one of the highest callings of our human nature to participate in creation. And that little zone is like, is when we're doing it well, when it's in service to others and not ourselves. And it's good work because we're using our talents and it's bringing us like a sense of fulfillment or contentment or satisfaction. And I would even say like there's a sense of peace in that. So just like capturing all of that, I think this is similar to what some people describe as like flow state. I mean, there's some different ways to describe this mode of operation that we can get into. But I really feel like if done properly, we really are kind of like tapping into the divine in some sense. Again, this participation in creation.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's also important to like extend the conversation, because creation doesn't, so many people think, oh, like artists, okay, that's, you know, creators. But I think that there's so many things that we create in addition to that. There's, you know, creating home, creating safety, creating family, creating all of these things that span so many callings that are not just entrepreneurs, and actually like we are product creators.
Right.
And, you know, so we have the very like, here, you can hold the thing that I created kind of, you know, work calling for both of us. But I think that that's something that everybody shares in when they're in this kind of flow state. I think about my peers and things that are just wonderful homemakers, and will be insecure sometimes. Like, should I be wanting to do something else? Should there be more that I'm looking for, or something like that? And I think that obviously they can only answer that for themselves, but in that they're creating something that shows us about God. And I think that that's what all of the creation is like, you know, a lot of times product creators like us, we really tap into like the beauty, like God creates beauty, but then there's also, you know, the safety and the home and the belonging and the love and all of those other aspects of creation that other people take part in as well.
Absolutely. And one that I would also highlight, both my parents were teachers, and my wife and I homeschool our kids right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment where you're trying to teach or convey something, and like that moment where you know that they got it. And not only that, but that they take it and actually expand upon it. Like it becomes like they take it and carry it forward in a new way. I think you get that same sense of like having created something, even though like you didn't create it, but there was this collaborative thing that just happened. And now somehow there's now a sum that was greater than the parts. And so
yeah.
I agree completely with you. We talk about creation and as product creators, like you said, having my output be data for so long, I'm very biased towards physical things now. And so when I talk about creation, like it's very much like that's what's on my mind. But I also, you're completely right that that sense in that word can mean different things, like for different people doing different, you know, different actions. But there's that same like core, what I want to say, that same core experience that like something new has been generated, and that sense of like satisfaction, and completion that comes out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's my theory, is that that's when we are really like, when we're in that kind of state, when we're in this kind of calling zone of genius, is where we're really expressing what it is that it is our job to express of the image of God, since we're made in the image and likeness of God. And we're all here to not just do something, but also to like show others some aspect of who God is in that, because that's one of those, you know, he is all of the good aspects. And so in the billions of people that there have been and will be and everything, everybody has something of that to share should they choose to. And I think that that's one of the things that makes it so important to then appreciate this in others, to really call out, like, it looks like, you know, what I'm seeing is you being in this space. Your creations are things that are resonating with me in just this really deep and beautiful way, because I'm getting the opportunity to see a sliver of the beauty of God, or a sliver of the, you know, whatever aspect, whether we've talked about, you know, safety, creation, education, etc., that they're really sharing with the world. I think is just really kind of sinks you into that idea that it really doesn't, we really, all of us are needed.
Yes.
Everyone is in the world to show something to the world very specific.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the reason that so many people have difficulty discovering like what their zone is we spend a lot of time looking at what other people's zone is.
Yes.
And chasing after other people's zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And we can never be that other person that we either look up to or envy, depending on the situation.
Yep.
It's really a matter of, like, we need to, again, do that process of introspection, ask those questions and give ourselves honest answers and figure out what our zone is. Because when we show up uniquely as ourselves, that is when we're getting closest to, like you said, like what it is that we are here to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we are so likely to find that joy then. I think that is, we see so often, and it's the Mark Twain quote that, comparison is the death of joy, because that is where it's impossible to be in joy, to be in creation. And if your eyes aren't on your paper, if you're looking over there, then it's going to be almost impossible to do anything on your own. And we see that so much with social media. And I think that that's always been there to some extent, but it's just this magnified opportunity where we have to be even more intentional about than what we consume and our mindset towards it while we're consuming it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Greg. It was such a joy to talk to you about finding kind of your niche calling. And I have linked to everywhere that Greg is, the Little Catholic Box and everything. So you can check that out after we have ended this show. So I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much, Joe.